no, an AI agent has taken over my computer. But that's okay because I designed it to do so. And we're going to cover how you can build your own computer use AI agents in this lesson of AI agents for beginners. We're going to cover what computer use agents are, how they work, and the different types of computer use agents that you can build. Plus, some safety and security measures that you can put in place to make sure that you're building efficient but secure computer use AI agents. It will be a short video lesson, but if you want more of an in-depth explanation, you can check out the full course and the written lesson at the link above and below this video, as well as code samples so you can apply your knowledge of building computer use agents. If you have questions or want to meet other people who are building AI agents, head over to our dedicated Discord channel, which you can find at the link here. Now, let's get into this by first explaining what computer use agents are. So to cover what computer use agents are, we can go back to our original definition of what an AI agent is. As we mentioned before, an AI agent has a large language model behind it, as well as a set of instructions. But what makes them distinct from other types of generative AI applications is the ability to use tools. And when we're talking about computer use agents, we're actually talking about a specific set of tools. In this case, these are things that you and me are using with our computer every single day or on our phones, which is the file system, mainly the different type of files and how you're managing those things, creating them, deleting them, editing them. The browser, so you're probably watching this through a browser now. Imagine an AI agent can go in and start searching through all of the different videos that are available to you. Click the play button, maybe try to have a transcript. This is all available and things that we can do in the browser. And this is actually a good use cases when we don't have things like application interfaces, so APIs that are available to you to make direct requests. Maybe we need to actually go into the actual application interface or a browser to navigate into getting information, maybe navigating through the certain instructions or completing a task. So these computer use agents use these three sets of tools and maybe other things that are available in your computer to be able to complete those tasks and instructions that you're given. Some might call this giving the ability for an AI agent to have arms and eyes, much like we do when we perceive different ways of interacting with these tools. And to be honest, it can feel quite magical. Well, let's actually give a breakdown of how these computer use agents work so you can understand how you can actually build them yourself. To start explaining how computer use agents actually work, we're going to start with this concept called the computer use agent loop. The first state or start of that is the perception step. This is where the AI agent is actually going to understand the current state or how things are at the current moment in order to understand what needs to be changed based on the task that's been requested to do. And these computer use agents do it in a couple different ways. We call this the perception step. And you can do this either through things like screenshots, if the large language model has these image analysis capabilities, or even source maps. So, all of these applications, particularly when we're talking about websites, have code boot with them, and we can also map that and understand what is actually on the page through those code that's there. And you can even do sort of a hybrid approach of both of those things. Later on, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both of these approaches, but just know the first step of a computer use agent is to understand just what the world looks like before we try to change it. The next thing to do is actually the analysis of this material, of this content that's on the page, on the application. And again, we're being able to, with the various different large language models, have different approaches. So first, we can do things like vision skills, right? We just send the screenshot to the large language model, or large language model, or the agent generates a screenshot. You can even do things like pixel counting. So whenever you're doing maybe AI coding agents, for example, and you say, move this 6 pixels to the left, we have this measure, and some large language models can actually count per pixel where those sorts of things are and understand where things might need to be changed, a button needs to be clicked on, pages to be navigated. That's also another ability of a large language model to do that. The third is visual markers. So we can actually give a screenshot to the large language model and it will actually mark up what is on that page, whether they're buttons, text boxes, URLs, different sort of tools, inputs, outputs, all those things to be marked on so that whenever the instructions needed to be completed and those elements need to be interacted with, it already knows where those things are. And then last one, when we're talking about particularly about websites as well in the browser, if we have access to the code itself, we can run a code analysis and know exactly the elements that are on the page, how they function by analyzing the code, and what can we do with those things. So the large language model can perform this type of analysis if that's accessible. And after it sort of gets the understanding of all those things through the analysis, it's time to plan an action. So this is very similar to other types of agents out there where you give it a task and it's going to now sort of navigate through that and make some sort of plan on what steps you need to take to get that goal. And again, this might be involved in, click the button, put text into the input box, type a search, things like that. In the code sample that you'll see in the GitHub repo that we link to above and below this video, we actually do booking of Airbnbs because maybe we don't have access to an Airbnb API, and we can also then pull in those pages, do a search, click the calendar. All these things are kind of planned and perceived through the analysis that we already had from the first sort of interactions of the page. One of the big things now is with computer use agents is not only are we working particularly with the page itself, but as we know, AI agents can also do tool calls. So we can call APIs to get information from another source and then fill that source in on that particular page. So for example, if I was doing travel booking, maybe you can call an API to get all of my calendar availability so that when I'm going in to book a flight or a hotel or something like that, it knows exactly when I'm available. So it's this blend of tool calling and perception of an application that really makes some of these applications that you're starting to see and these agents that you're starting to see really powerful. And then lastly, which is very important stuff, is actually evaluating, like, did it do the job? Did the agent actually complete the task, or does it need to reevaluate something? And this is why it's sort of in a loop, because if we go back to the top, we need to understand now that we have the current state has changed, what does it look like? Are we now on the booking page and we need to click pay now and maybe alert the user to enter card details, things like that? Or we had an error page. Maybe there's an error on the website side, or we just clicked on the wrong things. This is why it's a continuous loop of improvement and interaction with the state to make sure that these tasks that have been instructed are complete. And that is generally how computer use agents work. So the first type of computer use agent we'll look at is the vision-based computer use agent. So what's really nice about this is that, again, we're looking at images of an application or a website or any type of interaction that the computer use agent is working with, whether that might be even the file system screenshots that you might be working with. These are really great because it's really universal in its sense that you can take screenshots, or the agent can take screenshots of basically any type of application and have some sort of general analysis and perception of what that application's function is and where it needs to interact with that application to do the thing that it set out to do. But it is quite also expensive from a token perspective, right? Images can be quite large, especially and quite detailed, and feeding that into and converting them to tokens can eat up a context window rather quickly. So there are other ways to do this. The other type of agent that we're talking about is the DOM-based. So this is the document object model that most websites or all websites sort of follow, essentially going in and seeing how this page is sort of rendered through the code. And while everything's still an image, or everything is kind of through code, you are basically now able to take the code, which takes up much less tokens, and now it's also much more efficient, cheaper, but what the con will be is that now this is sort of design dependent. So, if you don't have proper tags in the website or, proper descriptions through the code itself, it can be tricky for an AI agent to really understand what's available to it to complete the task. And the last one is kind of this kind of desktop or mobile based kind of a computer use agent. And these are really great because they use a lot of the proven, tried and tested automation tools that have been in part of the development cycle for many years, particularly things like Playwright, to basically both take screenshots, but also sort of automate what buttons to click, how the sort of flows go, and this can even also work across different type of applications. The only kind of downside with this is the general reliability, especially when we're talking about working with different applications, how they're sort of functioning. But largely, when we're talking about these type of agents as well, there is some cost in terms of token amount, but they have, once you can have a bit of adaptability to this, using these sort of tools and these automation tools, again, that we've been using for quite some time. What you'll find in the reality, especially when we're talking about rather larger computer use agent type applications, is you're going to find actually a blend of these sorts of things. And when you're out there building your own type of solutions, you shouldn't necessarily commit to one of these things, but you probably want to start with one and see how well they perform, and then maybe blending things and maybe even having some sort of smart routing when you get some opportunities when you need to have an image-based computer use agent, or when you need to have a DOM-based agent, and swap those things out. But before you start building this type of agents, let's look at some best security practices so that we are protecting both users and ourselves here when we're talking about deploying computer use agents in production. Okay, so there is some security and risk elements that you should always be thinking about when building and even using computer use agents. The first big one is prompt injections, and this is something that's been around since we've been building generative AI applications. It's essentially, if you're unfamiliar with that concept, is the ability for prompts or text within an application or directed by a user, typically someone that's trying to attack your agentic system, using the power of prompts to misguide and misdirect your system into doing things that it wasn't intended to do. When you add the layer of computer use agents, we're not just now talking about, in the world of chat where it's just copy and pasting something in the chat window, but that these prompt injections can actually be involved in different elements of files or even code on a website, again, since we're performing that analysis. And it's something that you really need to be very aware of, particularly when you're allowing your AI agent to inject or use, various files within your system, making sure that those files are ones that you trust, as well as when you're browsing or using a website, that's also code that you would you also have trust, whether that's manually verifying it or understanding just the cost that might happen when you're doing things with these type of files. But if we go into why that's kind of a problem, is this idea of data separation. There's not really too much data separation when we're talking around using computer use agents. And what I mean by that is that the data that's on these pages and these files are kind of combined with the user's instructions. So when it's going in and analyzing these sorts of things, this goes all into the context window as could be potentially a set of instructions. Because again, this is how these computer use agents are completing the task, is looking at this information. So if you have information and data that on a website that's kind of misdirecting a computer use agent, this could cause potential problems. But I'm not going to just leave you here with a list of problems and say good luck. There's actually some good ways to kind of overcome those, which we'll look at as well. But what is the cost here is that right, there's a lot of things called destructive actions. So if we have no guardrails and we just say, hey, here's the whole file system, here's the whole computer, go at it, have fun. You might have things like deletion of data, exposing data when things aren't needed, privacy data, things like that. So you want to make sure that you set up these sort of guardrails and working environments that are safe. So let's look at some ways we can kind of mitigate those things. There's two really main and critical ones that you can get started today working on. First one is always kind of operating in a sandbox type of environment. So instead of just deploying it directly on a computer that you have personal information, company information, things like that. You can actually run this in a sandbox environment that's completely clean of those type of things, whether it's working with a virtual machine or using something like Docker to now have the computer station operate in. So highly recommended on these things because again, when you're kind of working in different scenarios that you haven't already kind of planned for, it's going to be much easier for you to mitigate these types of risks if you're already working in a very safe and removed environment that's available there. And the last part is also around the human in the loop. So it's something that we've covered already in this course before, around building kind of responsible AI agents. But this is even more important when we're talking about confirmations in terms of that. So you can build things called consent gates, where whenever the agent is prompted by an application or a website that needs some sort of consent, some kind of confirmation or some sort of data, that the agent doesn't operate or assume it can continue on without a human approving that. So building these type of systems and computer use agents, adding that into your instructions as well as your workflows is going to be very important to be protecting, again, yourself in terms of the application developer, or if you're building it, as well as the users if that's yourself or someone else. So these are two things to think about and operate between that. But this is covering a lot of the concepts around computer use agents. I do implore you to go check out our code sample to see how this all works together, and see you in the next lesson of AI Agents for Beginners.